You are in a room in Whitehall, London. It is the 26th of August, 1920. 14 days ago, the Lord Mayor of Cork, a playwright and elected official named Terence MacSwiney, was arrested by 300 British soldiers, court-martialed in 3 days, and transferred to Brixton Prison in London. He has not eaten since the day he was arrested. He has been on hunger strike for 14 days. In this room, the British cabinet is meeting. They know he will die if they do nothing. They are deciding to do nothing. The minutes of that meeting held today in the National Archives at Kew. Reference cab 2320 seconds. Record the decision in 11 words. Release of the Lord Mayor would have disastrous results in Ireland. Not, he is guilty of a crime that warrants his death. Not, the law requires we hold him disastrous results. He has 60 days left to live. The cabinet knows roughly how long a man can survive without food. They have made their calculation, they have written it down in 11 words. There is a second document. It is held in the Home Office File Series, HO144. It contains the daily medical reports, the pulse readings, the weight loss, the moment the scurvy began of Terence MacSwiney's final 74 days in 1929, 9 years after his death. A doctor wrote to the Home Office requesting clinical details from those reports. The Home Office refused. A note was placed on the file. The note said, "Closed until 2030. This is an episode about what the Cabinet wrote down, and about what the Home Office decided you should not be allowed to read for 100 years. The machinery that put Terence MacSwiney in Brixton Prison was constructed before he was born. The Defence of the Realm Act DORA was passed on the 8th of August, 1914, the first week of the First World War by its terms. The Crown could make regulations for securing the public safety and the defence of the realm. The war ended in November 1918. DORA did not end. On the 9th of August, 1920, one day before MacSwiney chaired an IRA meeting in the Lord Mayor's chamber in Cork, City Hall, a new law came into force. The Restoration of Order in Ireland Acted extended military tribunal jurisdiction over Irish civilians. No jury, no civil judge, no avenue for habeas corpus. MacSwiney was arrested on the 12th of August, 3 days after the new law. His court-martial was on the 16th of August. 4 days after his arrest, the charge, possession of seditious articles and documents, and possession of a Royal Irish Constabulary. Cipher key, the specific charge language. The documents were likely to cause disaffection to His Majesty. Here is what that cipher key was. MacSwiney, as Lord Mayor, routinely convened Dale courts, the Republican parallel court system in Cork. The cipher key may have been a standard administrative document for those proceedings. What had actually encrypted whether MacSwiney had used it as an intelligence instrument appears in no public document. The cipher key was the evidence that transformed him from a civilian Lord Mayor into a military defendant. Its archival location is currently unverified. He was sentenced to 2 years hard labor. He had been in custody for 4 days. He had eaten nothing in those 4 days. At sentencing, MacSwiney looked at the military tribunal and said, "I have decided the term of my imprisonment. I shall be free, alive, or dead." Within a month, he had calculated the human body could not survive more than approximately 4 weeks. Without food, he was wrong. He survived 74 days, what he thought during the additional 40 days. When his own prediction had failed him, and his body had not, is contained in no surviving record. Terence MacSwiney was born on the 28th of March, 1879, at 23 North Main Street, Cork City. His father was a school teacher who opened a tobacco factory, failed, and emigrated to Australia in 1885. Terence was 6 years old. His father died in Melbourne in 1895. Terence was 15. He left school that year to work as an accountancy clerk and support his mother and siblings. He continued to study on his own. He obtained a degree. He learned Irish. He became a playwright. He wrote in English and in Irish. He taught at the Cork Municipal Technical School. He was devout. His contemporaries called him puritanical. In his Catholicism he was elected Lord Mayor of Cork in March 1920. He was 41 years old. He had a wife, Muriel, from the Cork distillery-owning Murphy family. He had a daughter, Mer, born in early 1919. Mer was 18 months old when her father was arrested in 1911 and 1912. MacSwiney wrote a series of articles that were collected and published after his death under the title Principles of Freedom. In those articles, written 9 years before his hunger strike, he set out the philosophy that would govern his death. It is not those who can inflict the most, but those who can suffer the most, who will conquer. He had written his own death before he lived it, when his prison chaplain, Fr. Dominic, attempted to describe his mental state during the strike. He chose the word endurance, not courage, not despair. Endurance. Fr. Dominic recorded. He never complained, never flinched. He even thanked God for giving him the chance of a long preparation for death. On August 28th, 16 days into the strike, Dr. Higson, the Brixton medical officer, tried to dissuade him. MacSwiney told the doctor that he had consulted the church. The church had determined his death would be sacrificial, not suicidal. Without that determination, he could not have had the blessing of the church. Without the blessing, he would not have proceeded. He had pre-resolved every moral question. Before the strike began, the philosophy, the church, the political calculation. What he could not pre-resolve was his body. On September 19th, day 38, he issued a dying message through his sister Mary. He wrote, "No natural reason can explain to me why I am, myself, alive." He had stopped understanding his own survival. August 12, 1920. 300 British soldiers surround Cork City Hall at dawn. MacSwiney is inside, chairing a meeting of senior IRA officers in the Lord Mayor's chamber. He is arrested under emergency powers. He begins his hunger strike that day. In Cork jail. August 16th. His court-martial lasts a single session. He is sentenced to 2 years. He speaks his prediction. He is moved toward the door. August 18th to 20th. He is transferred to Brixton Prison, London, via a 24-hour journey. He is 5 days into his fast when he arrives. The prison medical officer, Dr. William Higson, records his measurements. Height, 5 feet 9.5 inches. Weight, 136 pounds. The prison books show him healthy enough, just. 2. Transfer. August 20th. The formal state warning is read to him in the presence of 5 prison officials. Governor's diary records it verbatim. You alone will be responsible for any consequences that may ensue from your persistence in refusing food. 5 witnesses. Written record. Legal responsibility. Transferred on paper to the dying man. August 26th. The cabinet meets. The minute is recorded, the decision is made and written. September 1st. Dr. Griffiths takes over as senior medical officer. 24-hour nursing is assigned. Daily medical reports begin: pulse rate, skin elasticity, urine output, mental state. These reports go to the Home Office. They are classified. September through October. The pressure intensifies from outside. 4. South American nations appeal to the Pope. 3,000 American longshoremen pledge to boycott British ships. Protests in Paris, in Barcelona. In Manchester, King George V reportedly considers overruling his own Prime Minister, a constitutional crisis, to force MacSwiney's release. Lloyd George holds the line. October 17th. Michael Fitzgerald dies in Cork jail. Day 67 of his own. Hunger strike. MacSwiney is on day 66. No. Release order follows. October 20th. MacSwiney falls into a coma. The doctors begin administering liquid nourishment. Benger's food, brandy, orange juice, milk, albumen. He is not conscious, to refuse. October 25th, 5:30. In the morning his brother Shauna and Fr. Dominic are present. He dies. His final recorded words. Witnessed by Fr. Dominic, I want you to bear witness that I die as a soldier of the Irish. Republic 74 days. From a Lord Mayor chairing a civic meeting, to a body in a prison cell in London. This is the turning point of the episode. Not MacSwiney's decision to begin a hunger strike. Not the transfer to Brixton. The turning point is the 26th of August, 1920. The Cabinet. Meeting the 11 words. Understand what those 11 words mean by. August 26th. MacSwiney has been fasting for 14 days. His weight was already at the lower end of normal. When he entered prison, the Cabinet has access to medical advice. They know, within a margin, what the outcome of continued fasting will be, and the language they chose was not, we cannot release him, or, the law prevents release. The language was, disastrous results. The disaster they feared was not his death. The disaster they feared was releasing him. And what that would mean for their authority in Ireland, the Cabinet identified 3 specific consequences of release. Mutiny of Crown forces in the south of Ireland. A precedent that hunger strikes could serve as a release mechanism for all future Republican prisoners. The fracturing of Lloyd George's coalition Unionist MPs. Within the coalition opposed any concession to Republican prisoners. None of these is a legal reason. None is a medical reason. All 3 are political calculations. The same day, August 26th, Andrew Bonar Law, Lord Privy Seal, number 2 in the government, wrote to Lord Stamfordham, the King's private secretary. That letter is now in the Bonar Law papers at the House of Lords. Reference MS April 100-183. It communicated the decision directly to the royal household. King George V was being told, we have decided. Whatever the king was considering, and there is evidence he considered overruling his own cabinet. He did not act. He did not overrule. The constitutional crisis that would have forced MacSwiney's release did not happen. On August 26, Terence MacSwiney had 60 days left to live. The cabinet had just decided what those 60 days would contain. 4 men held the authority that governed MacSwiney's death. David Lloyd George, Prime Minister, chaired the cabinet that produced the August 26 decision. He managed, for 74 days, international pressure from 4 continents without conceding. After MacSwiney died, Lloyd George remained Prime Minister for 2 more years. He was never charged with any offence in connection. With MacSwiney's death, he died in 1945. Edward Short, Home Secretary. All decisions regarding MacSwiney's detention, medical treatment, and potential release passed through his office. The MacSwiney family and their legal representatives made repeated applications too short. Every application was declined short. Remained Home Secretary until 1922, Sir Henry Wilson, Chief of the Imperial General Staff. After MacSwiney's death, Wilson reportedly insisted the body be diverted from Dublin, where mass demonstrations had been planned. Directly to Cork, he exercised military authority over a dead man to prevent political gatherings. Henry Wilson was assassinated by IRA. Members in London on the 22nd of June 1922. Dr George Batho Griffiths, Senior Medical Officer, Brixton Prison. He compiled the daily reports pulse, skin, urine, mental state from September 1st to October 25th. He made the decision, in MacSwiney's final days, to administer liquid nourishment while MacSwiney was in delirium and could not refuse. His reports are in the Home Office file series HO 144. His reports are closed until 2030. Of these 4 men, none was ever prosecuted. None was ever formally questioned about their decisions in a public inquiry. None testified at MacSwiney's inquest. The inquest lasted 15 minutes. An inquest jury in Brixton deliberated for 15 minutes on the death of the Lord Mayor of Cork. Their initial verdict was open. They could not agree on a specific cause. The coroner negotiated them to a finding. The finding attributed death to MacSwiney's own refusal to eat. This is the official verdict. It remains the official verdict. When Terence MacSwiney arrived at Brixton Prison on the 18th of August, his recorded weight was 136 pounds. His height was 5 feet 9.5 inches. His BMI calculated from those figures was 19.5, the lower end of the normal range. When he died on October 25th, 74 days later, his final weight was not recorded. It was omitted from the inquest. The official death record contains no measurement of how far his body had wasted. Dr. Griffiths' medical reports, the daily records compiled from September 1st, documented his pulse rate is 44 to 48 beats per minute. Normal is 60 to 100. They documented progressive scurvy, skin elasticity, urine output, the onset of delirium. Those reports are in the HOE 144 series. They are closed until 2030. On the 20th of October, MacSwiney fell into a coma. The doctors administered liquid nourishment, Benga's food, brandy, orange juice, milk, albumin. The prison medical reports state he swallowed by reflex action. No force applied. His wife, Muriel, did not consent. His sisters did not consent. When MacSwiney briefly regained consciousness, he was, the record states, very upset at discovering he had been fed. The family called it forcible feeding. The prison called it reflex swallowing. The distinction is not merely semantic. If liquid nourishment was administered to a man who had explicitly refused food without his consent, or that of his family, then the inquest verdict, which attributed his death solely to his own refusal to eat, may be factually incomplete. The full record of what happened between October 20th and October 25 is in the HOE 144 files. It is closed until 2030. The witnesses to MacSwiney's dying were not permitted to testify fully at his inquest. Arthur Dominic O'Connor, his Franciscan chaplain, present throughout most of the 74 days, wrote his own account. He described a man who never complained, never flinched. He described MacSwiney as thanking God for giving him the chance of a long preparation for death. Fr. Dominic's written account is not a legal document. It carries no institutional authority. It exists because one man chose to write it down. Muriel MacSwiney, his wife, was present at Brixton through much of the strike. She is the person who refused consent for the liquid nourishment administered in the final days. Her stated objection is in the record. Her full testimony is not outside the prison walls. The world was watching in a way it had rarely watched a single dying man. The Archbishop of Perth cabled Lloyd George. The President of the United States received delegations in New York. 10,000 people marched. In Genoa, dock workers refused to load British ships in Buenos Aires. The Irish community held a vigil. None of it changed the Cabinet's calculation. The calculation had been made on August 26th. The world's attention was not a variable in that calculation when MacSwiney died. The international press reported his death as an execution conducted not by firing squad, but by political decision. The British press reported it as the consequence of his own free choice. Both were reporting from the same facts. There are 3 documents at the center of this case. The first is the Cabinet Minute, Cab 2320 seconds, National Archives. Q. It is declassified. It is publicly available. 11 words. The political decision to allow a man to die. This document exists. You can read it. The second is the Brixton Prison, Governor's Diary. It is not at the National Archives. It is at HMP Brixton, the prison itself. Still operating as a prison, It contains the verbatim text of the Secretary of State's August 20th warning, placing moral responsibility for MacSwiney's death onto MacSwiney himself. Witnessed by 5 officials, it is not a classified document. In the standard sense, it is simply held in a building that is not a public archive. The third is the Home Office medical file, HO 144 series. It contains Dr. Griffiths' daily reports, the pulse readings, the scurvy onset, the disputed liquid nourishment, possibly, the final weight MacSwiney's body reached at death, the measurement, the inquest, omitted, possibly, a medical officer's formal recommendation to release MacSwiney on health grounds, and whether that recommendation was overruled in 1929. Someone reviewed that file. 9 years after MacSwiney's death, 1 year after a new government had taken power, they placed a note on the file. Standard government file closure in that era. 30 years available by 1950. The note did not say 30 years. The note said, closed until 2030. 100 years from MacSwiney's death. No public explanation has been given for why 100 years were needed. The file has not yet reached full public release. What is in those pages that required a century of protection? That question is still open. In 5 years it may not be, or the release may be partial. The archive does not guarantee what it eventually discloses. What follows are not rhetorical questions. They are historical gaps, specific absences, in the rarefied record that cannot, on current evidence, be answered. 1. The Home Office placed a 100-year closure on MacSwiney's medical file in approximately 1929. The standard closure period was 30 years. What is in the file that required 70 additional years of protection beyond what any other sensitive government document of that era required? 2. In MacSwiney's final days, prison doctors administered liquid nourishment while he was unconscious and unable to refuse. The prison called it reflex swallowing. His family called it force feeding. The inquest attributed his death solely to his own refusal to eat. If the full medical file shows that nutrition was administered without consent, does the inquest verdict accurately describe what killed him? 3. The Rick cipher key was the primary evidence that transformed MacSwiney from a civilian into a military defendant. What did that cipher key encrypt? Had he used it? Was it a standard administrative document for the Doyle courts he convened as Lord Mayor, or was it evidence of active intelligence work? Its archival location is unverified. 4. King George V reportedly considered overruling his cabinet to force MacSwiney's release, which would have produced a constitutional crisis. The Bona Law Papers contain correspondence with the King's private secretary dated August 26th. What was communicated from the government to the palace that persuaded the King not to act? The full royal correspondence on this has not been published. The investigation remains open. The cabinet minute is available. The governor's diary is in a prison. The medical file closes in 2030. Terence MacSwiney died on October 25, 1920. He was 41 years old. His daughter Mare was 18 months old. The archive is not finished with him yet.